Good morning. It's Tuesday. I'm finally getting a break after my break from everything else to get out in the garden. I got a couple of hours. I had my clients come back and I got some programming work and I got that taken care of. I'm just waiting to see if they got more or whatever they want me to do. I've got the bathroom situation. I'm basically in a holding pattern waiting for things to dry before I can do the next step. So I've got a couple hours to get in the garden. So let's do a little cleaning up. I'm not even sure what time it is right now. I gotta imagine we're getting close to lunch, and I gotta save a little bit of myself to work on the bathroom because I gotta do another layer of the drywall compound. But let's kind of review what I've done here and maybe clean up just a little bit. So obviously I just did some weeding on the hill, but let's work our way back over here. Let me see if I can't do this. So I opened both of these up because ultimately I needed soil for transplanting the geranium. I guess Dad pulled a geranium out of a pot. It was seriously root bound. I cut off what I could and planted some cuttings, and we'll see what happens with that. But I can now put cover back on this. I also discovered that this isn't draining nearly as well as I need it to. I ended up taking some out of here, so let's take a look. That is what that is all looking like now. That looks considerably drier on the top. This, like I said, needs to drain better. So let me put the top back on this one here. Just trying to neaten up. If we get the sprinklers do go off 3 times a week. They went off this morning, which is why it was so wet up there when I was pulling weeds. But that takes care of that. Ended up using a bucket here. I'll go wash that out soon. I didn't quite realize it until I went to take out. One of the first things I did was take out the garbage cans, get them out of the way, because tomorrow's pickup. But I hadn't noticed that Dad was still cutting back the jade plant. He's just cutting bits off and filling up the green cans so we can get rid of that. Now another can here that's pretty full, and another one in the back where Dad was weeding, so he's getting some of that done. I found one of the leaves from the whirlybird there, tossed it over here right there. So I'll have to get that repaired done. I have to find the other leaves. I still got to pull a ton of weeds up here. Cleaned up the area over here because I wanted to put the cuttings somewhere. I wanted to get them kind of in the sun. So that's what that is over there. And then in the back, go through the gate here. I keep looking at these nasturtiums, and they are growing like gangbusters right now. I think this is just like the perfect location for them. Originally I was thinking in front of all of this stuff I was going to plant marigold, because marigold is sort of a universal, bad insects don't like it, good insects do. So it's really a good thing to have in your garden. But, I mean, since these are growing so well, why not continue? So I added in the box here and got some seeds planted from my stash over here. And that's pretty much what I got. So I think now I'm going to wrap up for today. I'm going to go pick some oranges, and then I'm going to go relax for a bit before I try and attack the ceiling. Good morning, gardening friends. It is now Sunday, and this will be part of my midweek, but I'm happy to finally say the bathroom project is done. I have my bathroom back. I can come outside now, get myself dirty, and go use the bathroom to clean up. um, so I'm a happy camper on that, and I've just been itching to get outside, and I've been looking at the lawn and thinking, okay, the grass is getting rather long. Let me give you an example. That seemed like a long enough blade to you? That's actually a couple of blades. It's starting to grow like that. So I think it's time to, first I'm going to go ahead and hit this with the rake to try and pull some of the debris off. Then we're going to fire up the lawnmower and actually mow the lawn. So here comes the time lapse. Okay, that's a little better. Just wanted to get the debris off the lawn. I know the lawnmower will suck up the majority of it, but I just prefer to rake. It also kind of, I feel like it might open up the lawn a little bit so it'll absorb the water, which actually the sprinklers went off this morning where our schedule's a little off. But I think next I'm going to remove the lights off in the distance there and get the edger out and actually edge the lawn. So here we go. You know, it leaves me wondering, how long has it been since I pulled all these tools out? This actually may be the first time this year that I'm doing all this. I did rake earlier just to try and get the debris off the lawn, but I didn't think the grass was long enough to cut. But here we are, time for the main event. It's a little bit more brown than I would like in the foreground. That's probably because I'm cutting it. Well, I'm not cutting it that short. Actually, I think the lawnmower, the adjustment for the deck can only go up like one more level. That would be the longest that lawnmower allows me to cut the blades to, but cut quite a bit off. I'll have to look and see if it ripped them or cut them, because that does make a difference, and we'll see where we go from there. But I think the next thing, before I pull out the leaf blower and try and clean up around here, a lot of the time I use a broom, but I do have a leaf blower, and when it's this much, I'll pull that out. But I think I'm going to get the hedge trimmers and the clippers and trim a few things up. So Alright, we're at a little bit different angle here because my phone overheated and shut off in the midst of the time-lapse. I'm just gotta hope that it actually saved the file. It does that. It was sitting out in the sun, so it's now in the shade. And I basically got those taken care of. There's a little bit more to do, but I'm mainly cleaning that up right now, so I'm just gonna go back to my own music for a minute while I clean up, and then we'll get back to the time-lapse. Okay, I believe this is about where we left off when the phone overheated, but then as I was cleaning up and listening to music, the battery also went dead, so I've taken an extended break. It is now afternoon. That is what these sticker bushes look like. I did a little bit more cleaning along here. I still need to get some of the pepper tree suckers to come out, but over here I cut the lower branches off of the palm to allow some light to get in and for these geraniums to spread a little bit more. I'm enjoying looking at how these look, and I got the more of them over there. So then I got a bunch of stuff cleaned up, and I just kind of kept going. And I had noticed that I did also trim this bush here and got out the leaf blower and did all of that. Still need to put my solar lights back. Then I came over here, and so just to show you, the garbage can is rather full at this point. We're gonna have to borrow. We do have a neighbor who lives up the hill and has a large section of the mountain, and so I guess the city has provided her with 3 green garbage cans, so every so often we just borrow one from her. And I came over here, and since Dad's been working on taking out the jade plant that was here, I just figured, what the heck, let's finish it off, except for that stump. But there it is there. It's kind of a mess. I need to pull it back out, turn it into a few smaller pieces, and then there's whatever else. Basically what I want to do, and I gotta go take care of a couple of other things real quick, but then I'm gonna come back here, and you see how I've got this wall sticking out now. Well, actually what I want to do is I want to carry that wall across. What I've been looking at, and this will end up in the weekly summary, but basically that back wall there, I want to take that as a model and run it across that way, which doesn't exactly line up with this whole big thing that I did here, but that's not the end of the world. I can work with that. I'm just trying to figure out how high I'm going to go. I've got that 2 bricks high. Right now I might go only 1 brick high. Then I can take all of the bricks on that second level and use them to come across, but also I have to move that entire wall forward a little bit, but it works out beautifully. If my measurements are right, when I first put this all together last year, you see I've got these red bricks here, and I've got the 12-inch by 12-inch paver, another one behind it, and then a brick in between because I went back that far and it was a little too far. If my measurements are right, it's going to be almost perfect. I'm going to have this little gap, which is here to allow for, let's see, where is it? I got to find it so I can show you. Whoops, almost dropped that one. Oh, goody. That's falling apart. Well, here's one of them. This is the part of the sprinkler system here. So I've got one here. There's another one buried in the wall here somewhere. Oh, there's this riser here. So I need to have enough of a gap to allow for that. But beyond that gap, I think I can fit 2 of these 12-inch by 12-inch pavers and not have the brick. That's as far as I'll be pulling the wall forward, I think. So I want to start figuring some of that out. I've got a brick here that was basically surrounding the jade plant, and then that structure came over here, and that's why I built the wall coming out as far as I did. So, and I've also got some bricks here. I just basically need to clear a bunch of stuff and kind of figure that out, and ultimately then get in and dig that last piece of the jade plant out. That's a bit of a project for today, but if I can get it kind of figured out, then in the next couple of days, hopefully, I can start rearranging some of these bricks. And as far as the overall terracing of the hill, and yes, I need to pull more weeds. As far as the terracing of the hill, I'm hoping I have my first level kind of figured out, because it'll just run from that little alcove for the black garbage can all the way across. See, we've got the wall pulled out here too, and ultimately this is going to go, this Nandina, and it's going to come all the way across until it hits here, not at this level, but actually I believe at this level. So that might also determine kind of, maybe this will become the model for what the next step is. I need to figure that out. I just think it would look better if it was the same going all the way across. So that's a lot of work to do, but that's kind of the plan. So let me go take care of something else real quick, and then we'll start that project. Alright, I figured I'd stop here and give you a little bit of a game plan, just to understand what I'm doing, as well as giving my camera a chance to cool down because it's overheating yet again. I realized that behind me where I was working, I needed to dig out a bunch of dirt, and I needed a place to put the dirt, so I thought, okay, I'll put it in the bins, but I need a place to put the bins, so that's what that was all about. It was just digging out a little bit of a shelf there as temporary, but ultimately that's going to get scaled back and be part of the terracing anyway. So that's what I'm doing. I've got the two bins set up. I've got one about half full, and the other one completely empty, so now I've got some room to actually move dirt around. So I think that's what I'm going to do. Maybe I'll just go back to my music, and I'll come back to you in a little bit, just to give the phone a chance to cool down. Alright, well, I got this far, and I think I'm going to be smart and quit here for the day. I still got to record my weekly. But, you know, it kind of is a proof of concept. Shows that with leaving enough room for the irrigation pipe, two 12-inch pavers, and then the stone and a cap on top of it, and it's just about level. I haven't done the final setting. There's a lot of fiddly adjustment when you do that, and a level and what have you, because you want it to continue across, decently. But what I've figured out is I've got one of those slump stones there. I've got another one sitting over there right now, and there are two more buried in here, as well as the two that are the side of this little alcove area. So it was a debate of whether I want to actually try and match the height that I've already got here so I don't have to reset that whole wall. That would be a slight recess back, or whether I take these stones and use them, because if I only go up one level here, then I can recover, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of these, which I can then use over where I've got all the bins right now. I mean, eventually I'm going to have to move all the bins, and that'll be a whole project in itself, but hopefully by then I'll have the mulch moved out of here, so that's another project to do. There's a lot to do. It's not just about the terracing. I did fill up one of the small bins, and the second one's half full, somewhere in there. I need to empty that off. That's not a good thing to leave the standing water. And, well, I think that's what I'm going to wrap it up for today. And well, I'll think about it some, and I'll come back at it in the next couple of days somewhere. Still got to clean out the garage from the big bathroom project, so I got to get that cleaned up and organized and put tools away and all of that stuff. So this is where I'm going to wrap it up here for today. Until the next time. Good afternoon, folks. It's a couple of days later. I did overdo it, even though I said I was going to try and be smart about it. Sometimes I don't know. I just overdo it. But I've been working on cleaning the garage, which it's not the same cleaning as before. It's with the whole bathroom project. We ended up with a ton of we ended up buying new tools and new materials and this and that, and it's like, where to put it all? Let's go back through everything on the shelves and figure out what we can throw away so we can make enough room for the new stuff. So, I mean, there's some paints there that I'll pull out and let them dry out. Anyway, I spent most of the day on that. There's like about an hour or so of good time left in the day. So I said, you know what? Let me get back out there, because I've been thinking about this whole situation, and where I've been saying maybe I'll go one level. I'm now thinking actually 3 levels, but more up, like up over there is going to be 3 levels. Over here, I got to figure out if I can go up to a 2nd level, because ultimately I want to transition from what's right here over to what will be over there, and leave about 16-foot wide area that we'll be working with this year. If we decide we could, go further than that, but at some point you've got to restrict the whole terracing thing down to some level so it becomes more manageable. So I want to try and see what I can do with laying out some of these blocks. So here comes the time lapse. Well, that's an hour and 9 minutes condensed down to almost 7 minutes, and then I'll probably edit and speed it up even more, so you're not having to watch through 7 minutes worth of stuff. But that's not bad for a little over an hour. I got some stuff accomplished. I made a couple of changes to my plan while I was going, just trying to figure out how I'm going to do this entire project. I'm going to need an area for staging, and I think this is pretty much it where we're standing right now. I realized that the 2 darker green bins underneath that sifter, that those were filling up, and I couldn't pull any more dirt and put it anywhere until I actually sifted it. Wanted to separate out the good soil from all the rocks, so that's what you're seeing in the sort of bluish green bin. This actually looks blue on camera here, but trust me, it's actually a greenish color. Anyway, I managed to get a bunch of that and took some out and put it on the front lawn. But in terms of separating, you probably can see. So now I've got a pile of rocks right there. I'm going to have to figure out what to do for for a larger space for a pile of rocks. I think what I'm going to have to do is over in this direction here, I'm going to have to take those bins and turn them 90 degrees. They're pointing into the hill. just so I have a little bit more space that I can work with. I don't really need to put the rocks in a bin. I put the soil in a bin so it doesn't end up mixing with anything else. Not that I'm trying to purify the soil, but just I don't need to re-sift it, I guess is the key. So I ended up moving the bags of mulch, so in order to move these I'm going to have to take care of the mulch, so I think that's going to have to almost be my next thing. But coming over here, I mean, I made some real progress here. Let me get the bucket out of the way. Just move it further over. But I managed to reveal the end of the wall that I built last year, and as I recall, I mean, that was like a week's worth of work, or at least a few days, because it's not just digging up the dirt and sifting it and doing that whole thing, which then it's like, where do you put the dirt? Okay, it's just all these things you got to figure out. It's not as simple as one might think. But ultimately, one of the problems that slowed me down was when I got that far back into the hill, and I don't know how easy this is going to be to see, but at this point I'm hitting the actual rock that this mountain is made of, mountain, hill, whatever you want to call it. So that's like the bottom layer, and last year what I ended up doing was taking a cold chisel and a pickaxe and digging it out as much as I needed to get my wall built. And that would mean that my wall would actually be on a really solid footing, which is a good thing, except then how do I pin it into the hill? That's another question I need to answer. Or do I need to pin it into the hill? If I build it up tall enough and do things in layers, then I don't necessarily have... I have the wall down here at the very bottom, which is actually put together to hold back this entire hill. So hopefully that's enough actual retaining, and the rest of it will just be terracing and decoration on top of it. If somebody knows, go ahead and tell me if I'm right or wrong here. But I think I want to go up another block. I started pulling out the blocks that I could see. I'm at the wall here. I use the shovel as a pointer. There's a gap right here, but there is another piece down here. So I'm going to have to weave into that reasonably well, which means either this sets where my wall goes in that direction, or I have to start on this end and possibly have to move this entire wall over by a couple of inches. So yet another thing to figure out. But I mean, I need to excavate enough that I can start laying these blocks down and see if I can figure out what I'm dealing with. So I've got one of the originals. I got here what I suspect is another original, but what's interesting is this is a much deeper, like this back here I think is a 6-inch. This is either an 8 or a 10-inch. It's probably only 6 inches high, but I gotta figure that one out. And then I have a half a block here, and I have over here I think one block I already had. No, sorry, I pulled these two out, and I have another one when I was trying to figure all of this out yesterday, just out of curiosity. I put one of the blocks here and another piece on top of it. Now that I think of it, I don't need that piece to figure out. Basically, I did that, and then I took a tape measure to figure out how far back it went before it actually hit the hill. And that told me that I basically need to come up one more. So as far as the main part of this wall, at least as far as this step, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, and then a cap. And then I'll just have to basically get that built and then figure out, going further up the hill, how much more, how many blocks high the next step will be. That's what I'm trying to say. And maybe, I don't know, I'm trying to figure out, am I going to try and match the level where the trees are there, or I'm just going to ignore that, because ultimately what we're looking at now, I think the game plan for this year, and I mean this is a lot of work, but would be to go from sort of this corner here, or basically that side of that block, to go all the way over, but the main part of it's going to be a couple of feet in before we actually start terracing and going all the way up. So really it's just building enough of a wall to connect it all, but then as we go up it's just going to be 16 feet wide. So that's kind of where we are. Wow, I've talked a lot here, I'm sorry. But that's kind of the thinking here. This episode is long enough at this point, even with the time lapse being sped up and all of that. So I'm going to wrap it up for this week. If I get enough done next week, I'll release one weekly. At this point, I'm on every 2 weeks, give or take, because I haven't been able to get out to the garden. So we'll see. Anyway, with that, I will leave you. Oh, I just spotted something. Oh well, I guess you'll have to see that in the next episode. Thank you so much for watching. Take care of yourself, take care of the ones you love, and may your thumb be green.